Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to Wargame. Today I have a very interesting replay for you. What we have here is 2v2 ones in Harbor. We're looking at a conquest game going for 1,000 points, which, considering the amount of capture points and the amount of income you can get from those capture points is not very high, is going to take a while. So we're probably going to be here for the full duration of the 40 minutes. Now, this replay is interesting because the guy who sent it in, Nylop, he mentioned that the other two players, Matt and Steve, were in the lobby chat already arguing with them about how much of a steamroll it would be. Now, I had a look at the stats of these guys. Matt is a very experienced player, 755 games, 65% win rate. Steve, 73.9% win rate, so let's say 74, over 605 games. Then we have Nylop, who's only played 168 games, so even a little less than a quarter of the other two guys, with a win rate of almost 69%. And as he himself mentioned, he went up with a relatively incompetent random, so it's not even somebody he knows, called Jacopo X 1993, who has played 408 games and 39% win rate. So, I can understand that Matt and Steve are going to be very confident about their game. They're going to say, well, look at these rookies. What could they possibly have on us? Well, let's see what they have on you. For now, we're still in deployment phase, of course. We can see quite a lot of quad stacked vehicles going out. I still don't like quad stacking. Once again, I'll mention the reasons. If you quad stack your infantry, then you're presenting yourself, especially with this high value infantry, as a fantastic target for artillery and or airstrikes. All of your units, when they're going to be attacked, are going to start instantly panicking, and especially in a town you might not be able to get all units firing at the same time. So try not to quad stack. That is, unless you're dealing with very, very cheap units. A situation like this, the BTR-152, I believe that these transport reservists. Situation like that, I don't really mind. Well, you could argue it's more work to separate these guys out into smaller groups than to just force them all into buildings in quad stacks. This, however, is not really that useful. Quad stack of BRM-1s. One recon unit per area is enough, unless you're using these things as cheap fire support units, but even then, the BRDM-1 only comes equipped with a machine gun, not an autocannon, at least as far as I remember. Also seeing some helicopters getting ready to go. Mi-8 MTV with a recon infantry, command infantry inside. We have a K-52 and a K-50 Akula. I'm not exactly sure where these guys are heading off to in such a hurry, but they might be going to Delta and trying to intercept any units that come down this road from Gulf. And on the left we have all the quad stacks. Bloody hell. He has 5 quad stacks here, all elite. This must have cost him a fortune. I'm not sure what the starting points were in this game, but this is looking very expensive. Now, unfortunately, the chat between these two teams is not recorded in replays, of course, so I cannot exactly see what they're saying. I imagine the taunts are flying left and right. And the other thing I'm not seeing, especially considering that he's playing with a random, this surprises me, I'm not seeing any attack markers. Maybe they were already planning their attack in chat, I'm not exactly sure. But normally you'd see attack markers or defense markers going up over these separate zones and saying, hey, I'm going to go here, can you take that sector, etc. Or, and that's especially important in a game like this, where is going to go, or which one is going to provide which CV where. Stuff like that is getting crucial. Now we can see that Nylop is going to hold this main zone. He has quite a few perimeter defenses set up here. Probably the reservists again to make sure that he has at least a bit of a perimeter defense, which is not too expensive. Most of the fighting is going to happen over there. Alright, I think this deployment phase has taken long enough. Let's get underway. Interestingly, Nylop has also deployed quite a few forces that I wouldn't really expect him to. But then again, that is something that he mentioned in the description. He says he has no tanks, no artillery, no recon, and no ATGMs at all. Well, he does have recon, the BRDM-1, These things, let's just check. Yep, they only come equipped with the Dishka. Does not really do a lot of damage. We also have some fire support units, the BM-21 Grad. If I'm not mistaken, these were the ones that I recently saw in 12 Strong. In case you haven't seen that movie, go out and see it. It's really nice, especially if you're into the military strategy, and or actually military tactic, I suppose you could call it. Very nice one. Not entirely accurate, historically seen from what I've seen from it, but definitely nice to see. Anyway, we're being ambushed. This whole red column has been attacked by a couple of Sea Cobras. And this is not too expensive of an investment, 70 points per. Fortunately, they're going down quickly, but after they have done the damage. Most of the Redfor infantry was forced to offload early. So we have a lot of Bachongsus, a whole lot of surviving iRYkWA days over here. And we are not anywhere near the town where we want to be. Now, the quad stacks from Jacopo, that's mostly VDV-90s and a couple of Spatsnaz units that we see back here. They're being supported by, yes, the T-34-85, which you could argue is hopelessly outdated, but against transports they will do quite well. And especially these FAB 2013s you want to kill off quickly because of their autocannons. So that's where the T-34-85 can provide some fire support. And of course, the closer it gets, the better the accuracy gets. So in a situation like this, yeah, they can be useful. Now we have quite a few ships coming in. I wasn't even aware that this was the naval variant, but here we are. A whole fleet of Najins is forced to go into the battle. I'm not exactly sure why you'd want Najins. Because while their guns are very nice, and they carry a very good amount of ammunition for them, they are very poor at defending from from ASMs, anti-ship missiles. So why exactly he's spawning in a whole bunch of these, I'm not sure. I would try to go for the Jiangyu 3s. Those are usually far more survivable. Anyway, back to the center, where Redfor has taken one more zone than blue, but that's just changed. Red's gotten 29 points, blue only 8. So there's still a lot of fighting to be done. Blue offloaded pretty much per the book, a couple of light riflemen here. So these guys can take out the transports at a decent range, at least well before the infantry would ideally get out. They just don't really have the firepower to quickly deal with the iRYkWA days. Once again, Sea Cobras are on point to provide support with the Vulcan and the Hydras, and the infantry is getting wiped out pretty quickly. Now this could very well be a recon chopper. Yeah, probably a... yep, there we go, that's a Gazelle. It's rushing out of the area. It has definitely spotted this landing force. A couple of U-Kings and, of course, 5 accompanying Najins. You do not want to have a recon helicopter nearby. Especially considering that these things can fire out to helicopter targets at a range of 2450. Which is actually a little worse than I'd imagined. I thought that these would have a range of 2800, but apparently they're not that good. Now, considering that he spawned in 5 of these ships, that means that he had 600 points in reserve. That could come back to bite you if you had opted for a lot of expensive units. Which he hasn't. He has opted for quite a few cheap units. iRYkWA days, Su-76Ms, we saw the T-34-85s, which are still alive, mind you. The quad stacks from Jacopo are not doing that well. Spatsnaz are still a quad stack, but only by display. If he could heal these guys up, that would be very much appreciated, because at 35 points they are rather expensive. These guys are so damn lucky. Get out. Get resupplied. Alright, 29 Sapeurs. Not going to be doing that much damage against T-34-85s, but they will definitely be doing their damage against the iRYkWA days. And they definitely have further backup, a little further back, towards the next zone that they would like to capture, Elena. On the right, the light riflemen are still holding off all the iRYkWA days, despite the fact that the transports have been reduced to a whole bunch of scrap. These guys are still pushing forward, but they're not fast. These infantry units move at 15 kph, which is about 10 less than your normal infantry. These guys move at 25. So it's going to take them a while before they get to these structures. And right now the only thing that can really hope to happen is that they run out of ammo. Back to the naval engagements, where up close the Najins are coming pretty much nose to nose with a couple of Lafayettes and what might be another Type 21, I think. They launched most of their anti-ship missiles, but of course they only carry 2 per ship. And the Lafayettes are very capable ships, at least with that Crotal against anti-ship missiles. It seems that they didn't really get any hits. So right now we're going gun to gun, which is a questionable fight. I'm not exactly... oh, it's a Pohang, my bad. I'm not exactly sure who's going to win this. But considering the poor state of these Najins, and the fact that most of them are being blinded by the smoke, well done to Bluefor, by the way, I don't think that these ships are going to survive particularly long. We do have a few additional units coming in, but it's only you Kings, which seem to be invading this sector. I'm hoping to neutralize that as quickly as possible. I suppose that a lot of iRYkWA came out. Not a lot of iRYkWA are still alive, and these quad stacks of chasseurs are holding off all the iRYkWA so far. Let's see if these BTR-152s fare any better. There might be a command infantry here or a command vehicle parked somewhere nearby. Because Gregory is the first zone that you take, and then putting your command vehicle somewhere here, or maybe on this section, if it's a road vehicle, would probably be fastest. And this sector would be safest, this would be fastest. Let's see how the middle of the map's doing. Because I'm not seeing any of Nylob's units anymore. The French are definitely holding them at bay. And so far, it's Jacopo's units who are wiping out the French at the moment. I'm not sure if this is a new stack of Spetsnaz. I think it might be. Or they got healed up by these cargoes. Anyway, at this point, all the iRYkWA that made it towards, and emphasis on towards these buildings have been killed off. But don't worry, we have more. T-34-85s and SU-100s are standing by, with a couple of more BTR-152s and 60 PB standing by to go in. Unfortunately, this side has also been defended by a couple of guns. I'm not exactly sure what we're looking at. It's relatively rapid fire. Could be an AMX-10 or something like that. iRYkWA are now engaging the special forces. We have the British SAS and the Gurkhas, which are backing them up. That's not really a fair fight. iRYkWA, armed with the Type 49, are no challenge for the SAS whatsoever. There's not just one group of SAS and Gurkhas, I saw another group of SAS there, and this is the command infantry. They can wipe out this guy with an airstrike. They might lose it to the SAS, but they will definitely be getting some points. And considering the amount of Bluefor points, wiping out this zone will be a temporary, would definitely help. On the naval front, surprisingly, the Najins are still alive, although some of them are still rebooting their weapons. It seems that most of the Lafayettes have been killed off. The Type 21 is still there, still has ammo, same goes for Lafayette. And we now have a couple of you Kings with their rocket launchers. Oh, that was it. I complimented Bluefor earlier on their success at smoking up the Lafayettes. That was not Bluefor's credit. That was the U Kings which were firing smoke, allowing the Najins to get quite a bit closer. And up close their accuracy is about as good as the Lafayette. At range, definitely not. Because the Lafayette has an accuracy of 40 versus the 15% in the Najin. So smoking them up and then rushing into range definitely helped. What's not helping Bluefor is consistent weapon system reboots. The Pohang just got spawned in and is already getting kicked out of the fight. I don't think, however, that these U Kings with their dual Type 61s are going to be of particular use against the Lafayettes. They seem to be able to do some damage against the Pohang, but that's about it. The only thing that these ships can hope for is that the Lafayette and the Type 21 at some point run out of ammo, which is definitely a possibility, because the Lafayette only carries 240 rounds, fires 40 rounds a minute, so in 6 minutes it's going to be out of ammo. The Type 21 lasts a little longer, fires definitely bigger rounds, 7 HE versus 6. Doesn't fire them as quickly, but there are probably going to be more targets for him than he can quickly kill off. Especially considering the fact that these things do have some armor, the HE gets reduced in effectiveness, and this can take a little longer than they might hope. Anyway, let's go back to the town. Actually, let's go to Fedor, where Blue has managed to neutralize, sorry, Red has managed to neutralize Bluefor spawn, so Blue cannot spawn in any more ships. Oh, iRYkWA, this Nanushka could have been so helpful. Nylop consistently spawns in new reinforcements, all geared towards Fedor, holding off that zone, where cocky Bluefor might not be as cocky as they once were. They're sending in helicopters as a quick response force. If these helicopters get too close, however, even the Pachangsu can take them down. And I don't think that right now either side can do much. They can see the transports, but not the infantry. And the infantry can see the helicopters, but doesn't have the range to shoot at them. So we have a bit of a standoff here, until either AA comes in, or spotters from the other side, which can definitely make a dent in these units over here. Towards the middle, the Spetsnaz have been pushing up, and they are almost at the bridge. If they can hold that position for long enough, they can get their VDV friends to join them in. Definitely need some resupplying here. But you want to get these transports as quickly as possible. And the Spetsnaz are not that good at killing off transports. They can do it, but ideally you want VDV there. Now the right flank, there's not a lot going on here. Nylop is once again mounting an offense here with a couple of BRDM-1s, some BTR-60Ps, as well as all of the infantry that they have inside. We still know about the SCS over there. I'm not exactly sure what they brought in to reinforce, so there might still be quite a lot over there. And the ones that I haven't seen in a while are the BM-21s. I saw them move into this forest over here. Here's one. The other one might have died. Surprisingly, the attack helicopters have not died. The Akula and the K-52 are still alive, and I'm not exactly sure where they went, but they fired off some of their Iglas, so they went toe-to-toe with a couple of helicopters. Now, next smoke screen coming up, courtesy of the U-Kings over here. Further U-Kings are heading up the river. They're not going to be doing that much to transports, but dual Type 61s are pretty lethal against enemy infantry. So hopefully we can keep enough firepower on these guys so that they... Oh, look at that. Command vehicle. So that the infantry is going to panic and be an easier kill for the VDV and the Spetsnaz over here. Also, helicopters. Nice target for the U-Kings. And seriously, these are some of the... well, they're not the most elegant transports, but they're definitely effective at drawing attention, drawing DPS from Bluefor, and just keeping them at range. This is going to be a problem, however. If they get a command vehicle in there, we will be seeing more spawns from Bluefor. We're going to be seeing new naval units getting spawned in. That's not what we need, especially not with further U-Kings coming in. Let's see. Lafayette. Lafayette just went invisible. Damn French boats. Look at that. U-King completely out of ammo. Everything's been expended. These things are doing a little bit better, but not by much. The other U-Kings are getting ready for a fight. First of all, they're attacking the Type 21, but I think that the Sea Cobra might be a more interesting and definitely easier to kill target. U-Kings agree, put a lot of pressure on their Sea Cobras. Unfortunately, their accuracy at 10%, let's say it leaves a little bit to be desired and could be further improved. The U-Kings that I initially covered going up the river have been going further upriver, And they are not just offloading the infantry, they are also transporting, or at least that's my bet, they're transporting T-34-85s. Although... no, considering the amount of supplies, the amount of fuel that these things have left, I think they came up the road. They came up this road and then moved across the bridge. Otherwise you wouldn't be seeing fuel levels like these. But so far, they are definitely getting into range of enemy infantry. Let's just hope that there's not too much of the high AT variety close. Although you don't really need high AT to take out a T-34-85. Now we have a foothold here with the UBI. A couple of quad-stacked AMX-30B2s are going to loudly protest their presence here. These guys do carry the Type 56 RPG. It's not particularly lethal, at only 10 AP. But then again, the French tanks only have 7 frontal armor. So for now, they are getting their ass handed to them. And they know, so they're backing up. It seems that Blue has either transported a few new units here, or is calling them back. Large-scale bombardments on this tree, or sorry, on this town here. Not exactly sure what they were able to hit. Let's hope they got some of these guys. Definitely Delta took a big hit. Right now we have Rifleman 90, so the standard rifleman, dealing with VDV, and hang on. Oh snap. Anna just got taken out by what seems to have been at least one helicopter. And we have a Type 21 who's going rather aggressive against all of the landing forces that are still en route. Let's hope that the U-Kings can survive long enough. And look at this Pohang. He is physically blocking off the approach for the U-Kings towards the landing zone. So they're not going to have to sail around it. And they don't even fire their Type 61s. It doesn't really matter. We have a whole fleet of Bake News providing fire support, with the Lafayette still dealing with the U-King. So once again, the U-King did the wise thing. Launch a whole lot of smoke on top of these Bake News, making sure that they break line of sight. And look at this. I know the map is called... sorry, Wonson Harbor. But this is a lot of smoke on the water. And it is a very, very good play here. Because now there's only one Pohang which is adequately firing at these transports. But most of them are surviving. And surviving long enough to drop off their forces. Of course, this is not the only front that he's managing. He's also managing his forces over here. Which, despite the fact that they're only reservists, are making progress towards Bluefor spawn. Over on the right, we still have the quad stack of Pachongzus and their transports. It looks like they're not actively engaging this area yet. And they don't really need to be. Because if they can make further strides into this territory, and potentially put a command vehicle on top of it, they can just neutralize it altogether. Neutralize any incoming forces, and win the fight. At that point, Dmitry doesn't matter. So, investing further forces over here, I think, is definitely the right call, as opposed to hoping for a breakthrough here. Now, the command vehicle has been spotted, but unfortunately they don't really seem to have anything in range that can actually deal with that. There is some artillery, there even are some Nonas back here, but I'm not sure if they have spotted it. Yeah, Nylop has spotted the command vehicle. Do something, yeah, well... The question is what? These mortars could definitely take them out. Let's see, there's the tracked or the wheeled variant. Tracked. So they're going to take a while to get into range. But the range is pretty good at 7,700. So they could, if they'd move up a little bit, take out the command vehicle. But I think that he might not really be too involved in capturing the area. Or at least neutralizing the area there. The naval forces still fighting. Lots of Bake News are getting quite a bit of target practice with the U-Kings. U-Kings fortunately able to drop off their infantry. The infantry lucky to be alive, but lying in fetal position on the ground, hoping not to get killed off. This is what you're going to get with reservists, of course. They're definitely cheap infantry and numerous, but not always particularly effective. And their prayer, hoping not to get killed, didn't quite get hurt, and the fake news easily wiped them out. Now, we finally have artillery landing on top of the command vehicle here, but it's the wrong type of artillery. It's the BM-21. BM-21 is more of an area suppression weapon than an actual killer. And the command vehicle has taken some... Oh, you have to be shitting me. Has taken some damage, but didn't get killed, I was about to say. And that's when a rocket lands right on top of it. So, with the zone captured, and with the zone on the left side, Anna recaptured, they now have a +2 lead. Bluefor has once again lost command of Fedor. They can no longer bring in reinforcements here, at least not the naval type. So they're now mounting their own naval expedition onto the river. All these Bakenews are heading upstream, although I don't think they can actually traverse the bridge here. So look at how close these things are to the U-Kings over there. They cannot see each other because of the bridge, but this is definitely a no-fly zone at this point. All these things pack 12 long-range anti-airplane missiles, so let's hope that they don't actually do anything with those. This is something that doesn't bode very well, I gotta say. Where does Blue have his unit that he transported? It's elite as well. They may have already killed it off. iRYkWA over here, they should be fine, and the iRYkWA defensive perimeter should hold them off. But they might be seeing artillery. Although I think Blue is going to be a little busy in holding off Redfor in the middle, and will not really be investing too much into getting artillery. Now the chasseurs have gained a foothold, but only that. They really don't have a lot of control over this zone anymore. And as long as Red has a command infantry inside, they can still hold the zone, and with it, still get that +2 going. The Bakenews, fuel tank fire. Okay, that's interesting. These guys are dauntlessly just charging in, right, well, pretty much crashing into the Bakenew. I'm not sure if they can do much. What are they firing at? Yeah, they are firing at the Bakenews, I think. It's hard to see with all this smoke. And at some point, if these things die off, it's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get further river reinforcements here. Anyway, the French are mounting a counter-offensive. The Vabs are rushing across. I think they already disembarked their infantry. We already see quite a bit of infantry on the bridge. This would be a nice target for that Grad, that BM-21. Just to keep the French at bay, neutralize them and hold them off as long as possible until the VDV get reinforcements. Because until they do, this is a very, very weak position. I'm also seeing some activity on the right flank. What I initially thought would be AMX 10RC actually turned out to be ERC 90s. Decent fire support units, especially against firing just at open transports or transports caught out here. And there were quite a few transports caught out here, as you can see. These ERC 90s really pulled a number on them. Cheap units as well. For 60 points, they were able to hold off all the infantry here. Fortunately, the Spatsnaz are making progress, but once again, he's quad stacking them, so making them especially vulnerable against airstrikes. Considering the fact that there is no AA here, other than the Iglas, and they seem to know it as well, and Redfor comes in, wipes out a good number of the Spatsnaz. It seems that this quad stack didn't really get hurt, but the Redfor infantry from Nylop did. They unfortunately didn't survive. Now these might very well still be the light riflemen that they had initially. Just make sure you don't get too close to the tree line, or those ERCs are going to wreck you. What do we have here? Well, this is the Bakenews. The Bakenews have been retreated, and with all the transports still mobile, we can still send river reinforcements up. And there is still quite a few of them. I'm not sure why the bay canoes are not firing. I don't think they're out of ammo. Hang on. Just lost the command unit. Fedor lost. Really? Where's Fedor? Oh, here. They had temporary control over this area. They seem to have used it to bring in some... Well, you could call it an AA unit, but fire support would be more adequate. It would be nice if they can recapture that, because that's +2. And since they lost Elena and Blue recaptured it, they are now looking at a neutral score. Scores are still very, very close. 144 versus 142. There's still 13 minutes left on the clock, so anything can happen. Redfor seems to have made good progress over here. The question is, can they hold on to that? And considering the high amount of usage for Bluefor helicopters and the low amount of usage of AA by Redfor, if Redfor really wanted, if Bluefor really wanted to, they might be able to just push into this zone with a bunch of helicopters and potentially even resecure it. Once again, U-King's firing. They're putting up a large smoke screen over here. Why though? Ah, that's why. Command infantry is coming in. The command infantry is getting the smoke tub welcome. They might have seen the ZIL at this point, but they really cannot do anything with it. This, however, is turning into a problem. A lot of bush rangers of all helos came in. Were able to... oh, there we go. They were not able to kill off the command infantry, but they were able to bring in a command infantry of their own. Fortunately, the helicopters are on point here, dealing with the command infantry, and now we can spawn in all sorts of AA, and even the ZU-23s can wipe out bush rangers, and they do so. So the helicopter rush has been deterred. We are once again gaining points. That's thanks to the capture of Fedor over here. The infantry, however, does not have a home. They're just standing out there in the open. Quite risky. On the other hand, you could say, well, they probably aren't expecting that, so they won't argue that position. So it could be a bit of a double bluff in that sense. Now, I wonder how much infantry Bluefor has left. Because we've seen a lot of these chasseurs come in. We've seen a lot of them go down. So how much do they still have? How much can they still field? Nylop is friendly encouraging his teammate to actually start pushing over here. I think that Jacopo might not have that much left, however. He might have wasted a lot of infantry, but this is quite the waste as well. 20 PTRDs, not the best units, but they all carry a quad PKT, they can do damage against infantry. They almost all carry about 20,000 rounds, and with that you can wipe out helicopters, you can overrun infantry, you can suppress units from afar. He's not doing that. He's wasting quite an opportunity there to provide additional support. Now, quite a few blue bombers come in. I'm not sure what they were hoping to hit. Might have been the command infantry that was hiding out here, but it's already been destroyed. Still, Red is at a +1, because they managed to neutralize the command infantry or command vehicle over here. So we're looking at 10 minutes left on the clock. Redfor at a +1, 40 points ahead. They are holding on to this zone, but only just. The AMX are now rushing in, trying to find the command infantry, no doubt. These are quite capable tanks for a situation like this. In a sheerly offensive role, I wouldn't really use them. But in a situation like this, they can be effective, especially if they're able to find any infantry. Because they can fire the machine guns and their autocannons. I'm not sure if they can fire their autocannons and their main gun at the same time. I don't think so. So he's just using them as heavily armored autocannon transports, or autocannon vehicles, which are potentially looking at the command infantry right now. But don't worry, T-3485's to the rescue. Well, rescue. They're just sitting there. Alright, the AMXs are still here. Oh, Steve decided to surrender. Interesting. And yep, the Pachongsus with some of their last RPGs were able to take out the tanks. I think that the AMXs might not have been able to see the command infantry here. For some reason. What's their... Yeah, they have medium optics, they should be fine. Anyway, it's now a 2v1. No further income for Red at the moment. That's mostly thanks to this transport, or this command infantry that was... Sorry, command vehicle that was once again brought in. You think he's being sneaky, hiding out there in the garden. We see you. We will bomb you. There we go. +1 for Red. And look at how far these UBI have gotten. France is throwing everything they have left onto these UBI. UBI are still fighting back with their Type 56. But they now have quite a few reinforcements coming in. Especially considering that Matt has more veterancy, or at least more availability, thanks to his teammate leaving. And he's getting more income. So he can focus all of his attention on defending this zone. It's not really where his attention should be going, of course. Because we're still looking at a +2 for Red. But let's face it, this game is pretty much over already. So, Blue thought that they could win. Blue thought, well, we have the better stats. We should be able to win this easily. And with that, these guys are gonna get stomped. We have superior technology, we have superior tactics, we have experience in the game. Easy. Red has superior numbers. Lots of them. To some extent, even... I wouldn't really go so far as to say superior tactics, considering the amount of infantry and transports that died over here. But by throwing more and more and more units at them, and by opening up this front at Fedor, and forcing Bluefor to invest in some sort of naval defense against further naval incursions, they were able to win. They were able to hold them off. And yeah, it may not have been pretty for Redfor. They took massive losses trying to move forward. But if you have tons and tons of UBI, just lots and lots of reinforcements, you can hold out. These are reservists for a reason. Elite reservists at that. Militia forces, simply packing an assault rifle and something that must be resembling an RPG, and send them forward. And they are making a dent in the French and the Americans. So much so that this game only has 20 seconds left. They still haven't taken Dmitry. They don't need to. Because the UBI have now captured French reinforcement and are resupply helos. That was just insulting. Let's see, can they find the command vehicle? Must be further back. Yep, he surrendered. There we go. So, Matt lost a lot of forces. Mostly, I think, due to running into Jacopo, Spetsnaz and VDV. Steve, with his American forces, were able to wipe out a lot of forces from Nylop. But Nylop won in the end. Losing forces in a game like this, in Conquest mode, it is not as important as it would be in Destruction. Had it been Destruction, Redfor would still have won, but it would not have been as much of a victory. I mean, this was a total one. In a Destruction game, I think it would have been bit of, well, not entirely average, but a bit of both. Let's see. Najin's quite a few kills here. ERCs. A couple of AMX HOTs that might have been scrambled to fire ATGMs back at them. Further ERC 90s. Let's see. SU 100s. U Kings dealing with Gazelles. Interesting. Now you're not going to see any unit like a T90 which got a lot of kills, but mostly units that only get 2 or 3 kills, and that's enough. But Chongsu's, I believe, cost 10 give him a transport that costs 5. And against an AMX 10 RC, you only really need to get 1 kill in order to get cost effective. That's the problem. France has units which are for a swarming group like this match. It just doesn't have enough. Their infantry is too expensive. Red can keep throwing infantry at you, but Chasseur 85 with a VAB is far more expensive than the reservist that Red was throwing at them. Losses? Well, let's just say that the Sea Cobras had a really good match. Or at least quite a bit of target practice onto all of these transports before they got killed off. Light Riflemen wiped out a lot of the other BTRs. Again, easy target practice with their medium range ATGM. iRYkWA days, that was the initial Sea Cobras, I think, that got wiped out. So many losses here. Not surprising, of course, because his loss list is longer than his kill list. He got, what was it, 5.5k losses? Yeah, 5.5k versus 3.5k wins. Alright, let's have a look at his deck. See what he actually brought into this match. Okay. This is not what I was expecting. This is the deck that he sent me. He said that he didn't have tanks, he didn't have AA, he didn't have ATGMs, and he didn't have artillery. I thought he meant he didn't deploy them. That's not entirely accurate. He didn't have them. He went into battle with a 30 out of 65 point deck. And he fielded pretty much everything he had. As you can see, all the iRYkWA days, all the infantry, that's what he fielded. He didn't even field the Gongwopyongs, I think. He didn't really field that much in the sense of resupplies because you guys simply didn't live long enough. He fielded quite a few of his T-34-85s and some of his fire support units. But this is not what I was expecting. No support units, no artillery, no howitzers, some tanks. But the best tank that you can field with a deck like this is the Type 59, which I think for 25 points is still far superior to the T-34-85. He could have fielded quite a bit more reconnaissance. The ZTQ-62 is quite a nice unit. His fire support, he could have fielded the T-55 if he wanted to for napalm support. Helicopters, I don't think these would have been too useful this match. And I was wondering where his aircraft were. Well, back at the airfield. He didn't bring any with him. Now, I am not making this shit up. I'm gonna post the deck code in the description down below so you can confirm it for yourself. But when I paused the video and imported the deck, I thought I had the wrong deck code. I thought, what the hell? But this was his deck. This is what he beat 2 Bluefor veterans with. Just overwhelming them. Overpowering them through sheer force. Sheer numbers. So that makes it all the more fun. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have something similarly peculiar, then be sure to send it in through the description down below. There's a link there. Links to the replay site. Send it in there. I'll be happy to feature it if you have something that's as unusual as this. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the game, and I'll see you soon for more.